and you are live.
Good morning. Today is Q&A, so if you have things you want to know, start typing them in and we'll work our way through it. I left my coffee just out of reach. There we go. Very important. Chuku kunduzongbo gombo yi Dorji sampagarab dorji dang Shere singe bardu shinlabde Dedamazan tata tusum chi Zog chen jupe lama la solwa de Again pema junela solwa de Dorji chang chitila narudang Marpa mila gompo tsatsapa Na pupadang palden drupa So kargil lama namla solwa deb O chen lama namla solwa deb Dru chen lama namla solwa deb Kaginwarina lama namla solwa deb Shakya lama namla solwa deb Nyandu dayundrun lama namla solwa deb Falcon du jongdang yerme pa gon gerab dorji jin trag pa jetidang nisume pai palamanam jetente chong So can we have a question?
Yes. I would like to sign up for the Trekcha Zoom group. Would you please tell us who you consider beginner and who is advanced in Trekcha practice?
Look at the 3 words of Garab Dorji. How much sense is the 3rd word making to you? If it makes a whole lot of sense to you and is beginning to become, and of course, I'd say you're advanced practitioner. If you're really trying to get the 2nd word, gom, working, I'd say you're still in the beginning group. Does that help? It's not how much time you've been practicing, it's where you are. Because what these different groups are going to do, the ones that meet with me, periodically, about once every 6 weeks, they'll rotate through, is to get you over the humps you're stuck on. So I'm trying to get people stuck on similar humps into the same group so that what they hear for other people will be useful to them. That said, if you join a group and after some time, a few months, it turns out to have been the wrong group for you, then we'll just go ahead and switch you. You only get to be in one group at a time, but you do get to change if it doesn't seem right after giving it a try. Oh, good grief. I'm going to have to talk with one of these throat lozenges in my mouth. Sorry about the mashed potato sound that's going to come next. And my nose has been dripping all night. I suspect something has come into bloom. No, I don't think it's COVID. No other symptoms. So not to worry. Another question.
For Dzogchen students who are working on laying down their worldviews and attachment to Buddhist concepts, any extra tips besides more trekcha?
Learn another language and go live in another culture. Any language, any culture, as long as you get fluent and begin thinking in it. If you're already bilingual, spend a week thinking in the other language, the one you don't normally think in. See what that does. The language you think in strongly governs the reality you perceive. If I want to perceive things in a Tibetan way, I simply switch to thinking in Tibetan. Next. We're working our way through these. These are all pretty easy ones.
Well, they're coming in. When we do visualizations in, for example, Nundro, can we do it both with eyes open and closed, or are we supposed to do it one particular way?
You might find it easier to begin it with your eyes closed. But don't make a long-term habit of practicing with your eyes closed. Eventually, you'll want to train yourself to have them half open. Not wide open, bug-eyed, but just sort of a relaxed half open.
Does the previous Vajrasattva practice count as Tantra with a commitment?
The one as part of Nundro had a commitment to attempt Nundro, attempt to complete your Nundro, understanding that shit happens. The one that was given publicly, no, it did not have a commitment. It had a recommendation. It was given as a Tantra, it was given as Kriya Tantra, which does not require a wong to practice. And there is no actual commitment that I gave. That's my choice, giving commitments or not. And I frequently don't. I give recommendations. Your recommendation is to learn and memorize the long mantra and say it a few times every day, preferably in the evening. But no, that is not a commitment or a domsig, just a recommendation. It will do you good if you do it, but you will not be harmed, nor will I, if you don't. I find those are a lot better recommendations than domsigs. People hurt themselves over domsigs.
This next question is one, because I've gone through this myself with Wangdo Rinpoche, actually. Sometimes, when I have a question, but then consider what you might say and figure out an answer for myself, how can I know when I should write you anyway?
When you can't figure out an answer for yourself. A lot of times, simply getting your question clear in your mind will allow you to perceive the answer. Sometimes not. So write me in the sometimes not. If you figured out the answer for yourself, you don't need to ask me. Next.
me see here. A number of people were asking about the story from yesterday.
Not yet, if it
not
comes
yet.
up in context.
Okay. So another question, can I do mantras in Treksha? Should I be relaxed and observe how mantra appears?
No. You do not do anything in Treksha. Better. Not mantra, not visualization. Those are Tantra. You do those in Tantra, not in Treksha. They're different practices. You can't make a mush. It's like putting everything in the fridge and the spice cabinet in the soup. At some point, it's going to turn out tasting really foul. You have to know what goes in this soup and what goes in that soup.
Could you please say something about how Guru Yoga helps develop nature of mind meditation and how best to do it so it is effective?
Good one. Guru Yoga, Bodhisattva, which are two sides of the same thing, are the interconnectedness of direct mind perception. Now, that was the short version. Guru Yoga is not simply to an individual that you have named your root guru. It's not other than that, but it's certainly not only that. That individual or archetype, should you not have found your root guru yet, stands for you as a symbol of all Buddhas of the 4 times. All Buddhas of the 4 times are the culmination of striving and not striving of enlightened mind. And they arise from all sentient beings of the 3 realms. There is no separation there. Just as all Buddhas of the 4 times are Buddha-ness, so sentient beings of the 3 realms are aliveness in its multifarious manifestation. Do you see there's no separation here from that or from you? You are among all sentient beings of the 3 realms. And as such, you are among all Buddhas of the 4 times. But both those concepts are so big. All the living beings in the entire universe, all the Buddhas that ever was or will be, it's hard to visualize. So you put it all into a single symbol of Karmapa, Guru Rinpoche, Tsongkhapa, Myo Chembo, or a person. They are only a symbol. And their personality, boy, my horse. Their personality is the clothing on the symbol that makes it friendly for you. Because an abstract concept is a little bit hard to relate to, be friendly with, ask questions of. So a personality gets worn. It's just a personality. They flop all over the place. They're always changing. Happy, sad, mood, thoughts. There's no thing there that's a personality. Although there are karmic tendencies, pagchas, habitual channel patterns in each individual, which are interconnected, of course, throughout space with all other individuals and throughout time with all Buddhas of the four realms. So you see, it's both multiple and singular. And you can sort of see it when I'm talking about it, but you can't really think about it because it's bigger than the language you speak, the thoughts you are accustomed to using. So in that case, you simply accept it, knowing it is so, which is called faith, and produce a symbol of it to work with that you can happily wrap your tiny little mind around. Does this answer your question? Guru Yoga is Bodhicitta, is Shunyata, is innate Buddha nature, the natural state of your own mind. There's no separation there. And all the images of the blessings coming from your symbolic teacher, Guru Rinpoche, for example, or your root guru, for example, and entering your heart and your teacher taking up residence in your heart, these are all symbols of that unspeakable, inconceivable reality. And because you can't think of the whole thing at once, it's too damn big and you're too damn little. Your language is too small. You don't have words for that big a number. You can say infinite, but you can't really conceive of infinite. Actually, Homo sapiens can't really conceive very well of more than 3. Many of the original and more primitive cultures count 1, 2, 3 many. Makes sense. This is why you can only have 3 practices at once. It's about what a Homo sapien can keep track of. Those suggestions are different for certain insectoid cultures, which are not around here, so that doesn't really matter.
Are bliss experiences revealing a characteristic of the natural state, or are they just a nyam? How can one tell if they are wasting their time in bliss states or actually having signs of accomplishment?
Why the hell would you want to tell? That's just making another story. Give it up. Let go. Stop trying to figure out where you are. That's another one of those "Mama, are we here yet?" questions. How can I tell if we're here yet? You don't have to tell. Leave it be. However, since that's not going to satisfy you in the least, yes, it's a nyam. But understand that a nyam is a signpost that you're going in the right direction. Bliss is real. Consider the, not Chenrezig, Vajrasattva sadhana, where you rest in bliss at the end. Bliss is real. Bliss is a nyam. Behind the nyam is the real bliss. The nyam is a symbol. Don't take the symbol. If I write on this piece of paper, house. Yeah, this is made for use in person, not for use by film. It flipped it around, but you can see it. If I write house here and show it to you and give it to you, did I give you a house to live in? The nyam is a symbol of the realization. Don't say, oh, well, it's nothing, it's no good, I just have to get over it, it's just a nyam. Nyams are valuable. They're experiences, they guide you, they're signposts, they're symbols. But just as you can't eat the word orange, you actually need a solid material object. And no matter how many times I say to you, orange, 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 you don't find yourself having an actual orange. The word orange is a nyam. This is an orange. The bliss experience is a nyam. How do you know that? There is an experiencer, a subject, an experiencing verb, and an experience which is being experienced, object. If you've got subject, verb, object, it's a nyam. You're having the experience. Yeah? Keep going. Go past the nyam, not away from the nyam, not throw away the nyam. Go through the nyam with the incredible curiosity of what might be on the other side. The real one, the real orange is better than the word orange. Next.
With artificial intelligence becoming more advanced, when will we consider AI programs and machines to be sentient beings?
Can't do it binary. As trinary programming, off, on, and maybe, becomes common in the hardware, that potential will occur, and then it's just finding enough complexity. Understand that a sentient being can be reborn in anything. A compulsive housekeeper, utterly OCD, is just as likely to be reborn as a broom or a sponge. Oops. Many ostensibly inanimate objects have living beings trapped in them. That's why we don't slam doors. Unless you have the sight to see whether that particular door is a living being who thinks it's a door, then don't hurt it. You don't know. Don't walk around pulling the wings off bugs or the legs off spiders or the leaves off a branch just out of boredom. 'Cause you don't know what's alive from what is not. Even when you can see auras, it's still really hard to tell whether you have something with itty-bitty teeny tiny life forms clustered on it or the thing itself is alive. A stick full of microbes and bacteria that's been in the mud can look just as alive as a stick which is alive and has actually something reincarnating itself as a stick for complex karmic reasons. So in this case, be aware. Be generally kind to things whether you think they're alive or not. Yes, sometimes you have to chop wood. Say a few manis anyway, and run a few vajrasattvas come evening, just in case one of the pieces of wood you chopped had somebody in it. 'Cause you can't tell. Okay? So be kind to the universe rather than creating the dichotomy of this is alive and this is not. You don't know which one of these two items might be alive, or both, or neither. That's important. When I say be kind to each other, be kind to it all. Because any little bit of it might be each other. People get into the most amazing creative messes in the Bardo. You think people get into creative messes now with their practice. It's like, how did you do that to yourself? But you look in the Bardo and the things people crawl into to get away from the wind. Amazing. And then there they are in a thing. It is recommended in the Bardo that you don't be crawling into things, or you at least pay attention to what those things symbolize. Palaces are said to be a good idea. Holes are said to be often not such a good idea. Animal dens, things like that. But, you can find more detailed teachings on the Bardo. Oh, good Lord. From Lama Zopa at FMPT?
FPMT.
FPMT. I always miss the letters for that, probably because I don't know what they stand for. He has given some amazing detailed teachings on the Bardo of becoming and how that works. And they've probably recorded them, and they're probably in there, because he used to do them every few months. You can have a look through their archives and see what you can find if you're interested in more information on this. It's all in the basic Lam Rim. Next question.
Actually, someone else had asked a question about the Bardo.
Okay.
At the time of death going into the Bardo, what are the factors that determine we do not lose our awareness going into the next stage in life reincarnation?
The biggest factor is your habit of maintaining awareness through all sorts of experiences. That's the main factor. So make it a habit at all times and on all occasions. Recognize the already known Dharmakaya nature of mind. That's a direct quote from Garib Dorji, through 2 languages. He wrote in one of the Indian languages, I don't even remember which, might have been Sanskrit he spoke. It might have been Pali. It got translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan and then to English, but that is the gist of what he said. And that is the key to Gam, the second word. If you haven't got that, then that's where you are. You need to be doing that if you're practicing Dzogchen. Mahamudra has a slightly different order of the way things happen. That's why I have a separate Mahamudra group. And to those of you trying to figure out if you're in advanced Dzogchen or beginning Dzogchen, if you're not sure you can see Tawa anytime you want, you're a beginner. If you are having difficulty practicing Gam At all times and on all occasions, notice the already known Dharmakaya nature of mind. Gam. You're a beginner. If Gam has become easy for you, although not necessarily stable, and you're working on the third word of Garag Dorji's Sopa, which is the spontaneous nature of the arising and dissolving of thoughts. They all do that. If you kind of understand what that means and you're working on deepening that understanding through Gam, you're in an advanced practice. We're not using the word stabilize trekcha because it confuses people. They keep trying to stabilize a feeling, a perception, or an idea, which of course never works because those don't stabilize, they're moving. So we're not going to use that word. Sopa stabilizes trekcha. But don't try to stabilize something that moves. Hello? Did I answer the question?
I think so. We'll see if the person asks any follow-up.
Please, if my answer does not work for your question and it's your question I'm answering, please ask follow-up. This is supposed to be as much of a dialogue as we can over YouTube and Facebook.
Would you explain the difference between trekcha and lagtong?
Lagtong means direct seeing, and it is a Mahamudra term, which is somewhat equivalent to trekcha. Trekcha means cutting through, and it is a Mahāti term, which is somewhat equivalent to lagtong. Lagtong is a more specific term in a certain state of progress, whereas trekcha is a very broad term governing a whole bunch of steps of progress from tawa through gompa, even through sopa and rochik, rangrik. So really, it depends on whether you're talking Mahamudra or Mahāti. Oh, by the way, Chogchen is Mahamudra, Dzogchen is Mahāti. That's just the Tibetan and the Sanskrit terms. We're talking about the same thing. Chogchen, Mahamudra, Dzogchen, Mahāti. Next.
Just a moment, I'm trying to... I can't find it now.
You'll find it later.
Yeah. Sometimes I see you in my dreams and you give me advice or teachings. How do I know if that's genuine or a genuine teaching I should follow or if it's just a creation of my mind?
You don't. So instead, examine it the same way you would anything I said to you, even here. Does that make sense? Did I understand it correctly? Was it an analogy or factual? What I say to you in dream time and what I say to you over the internet, you still should have a look at and see if it makes sense. I remember with Rinpoche, one day he'd been teaching Togyal on a roof to a very lovely couple, and they went downstairs after having received these teachings. It was where we had the right light for it, was the roof. So we're doing Togyal on the roof. It's private, the light's correct, it's working. They went down to prepare lunch, and we were just standing on the roof, enjoying the roof. And he turned to me and he said, "What would you do if I told you to jump off this roof?" I think earlier that day we must have had a conversation about Tilopa and Naropa. And I said, "Well, You and I are speaking Tibetan. The first thing I would do, since Tibetan is not my first language, it's a learned language, even though I learned it quite young, is make sure I understood what the heck you just said. I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And after you had become certain that you had understood what I said, what would you do? That you had understood the words? Well, then I would double check and see if you were speaking allegorically. I'd ask you, is this an allegory? Do you want me to jump off this roof allegorically in my mind? Are you asking me to physically jump off this roof? What are you actually asking for? What do you actually want? And he said, good. Okay, you're safe to teach. After which we stood on the roof thinking our own thoughts for a while, and then I turned to him and said, did you want me to jump off this roof actually and really? Is that where that conversation was going? And he looked at me and says, no, of course not. That would be stupid. You'd hurt yourself. Oh, no, I left a part out. He did say, and if I completely convinced you that I wanted you to actually physically jump off this roof, would you do it? And I said, you know, if I was so sure and had asked you at least 3 times, I believe I would, but I can't know until we're in that situation. And that's where that bit of silence occurred, and I asked him if he actually wanted it. I would like you to do that so that you're safe to teach. One of the things that is very hard for many teachers, especially some of the Tibetans, is that students make up the most amazing stories about what they said and what they meant by what they said, which are often quite far from what actually happened, especially students who are new and standing off to the side. There was a teacher who had a student who was ill. She had IBS or some seriously irritating thing. And one day the opportunity arose and he reached out, actually sticking his hand inside her gut and moved the channels, and she was cured. Others, and this is what she said. She said she felt a shock as if something went inside of her, and then the pain was gone, and it never came back. However, a number of other students saw this happening and developed a belief system that he had punched an old nun in the gut, and became very upset by that belief system. Some of you who have asked me to be your teacher may have noticed I do this 3 years of dating before I accept. I have seen too many teachers harmed and even killed karmically by trusting their students too soon to make sense of the teachings. There are some I have accepted, but before I would do anything with a student, like reach into their gut and change their channel pattern, I would need to be pretty sure of that student, and would probably do it in privacy if I could, because boy have I seen shit happen. We all make up stories. And it is very easy to dream the stories we make up. If you think I am having sex with you in the dream time, you're making it up. I think I'd better say that right out. I made a decision when I began teaching to avoid having sex with Western students. I can have all the sex I want with Tibetan students. It's a custom. They don't freak out about it so much. Unless you get them pregnant, but I lack the equipment for that. So, understand that if you're dreaming that one, no, you're making it up. But I am very active in the dream time, and I do visit people and teach them. Especially things that can't be done here, or things that need to be done quickly and won't wait till I get around to the email. So I'd say you've got a 50-50 chance that it was me. However, it was me filtered through the symbols of your subconscious. So please interpret carefully what happened. Is this any help? If it made sense, it answered the question, whether it was me answering the question or your own Buddha nature answering the question. If the answer worked, go with it. Okay? And if it didn't make sense, seemed harmful to yourself or others, double check that A, you understood it correctly and it wasn't just symbolism. Yeah, there's one student in the dream time I took out to a firing range and we shot all the little beings that appeared, and they all turned into dakas and dakinis and Buddhas and flew away. It was just an exercise. But they needed that release. That doesn't mean I was telling them to go out and kill sentient beings. That means I was showing them something in their own internal symbolism. And they will have to interpret that. It has to do with performing gewa as necessary for the liberation of sentient beings. Let's have that person come back if that didn't help answer their question.
Okay. How best to combine our dream practice with our trekcha practice? Do they work well together?
Yeah, do trekcha while you're sleeping. Do trekcha in the dream. It can be really nice. That was like a 2-word question. That was easy.
Now, there was a question.
Oh, the way you do that is by doing it while you fall asleep.
Would you share a bit about fierce yidams?
Fierce is important. One of the reasons people pull back from practice is its intensity. Many people are attached to smoothness. Life should be smooth. Without anxiety-producing activities. Calm and smooth, leading to peace of mind. You don't really want that, do you? It's boring. You only want that when it's gotten a little bit too bumpy for your personal enjoyment. The fierceness of fierce yiddims symbolizes the intensity of the vitality of phenomena. The gentle peacefulness of peaceful idioms symbolizes the peacefulness of the vitality of phenomena. The fierce and peaceful archetypes that dance in the channels of the brain and the heart are symbols of your own vitality. You will meet them as the chi flickers through those states in which they live within your channel pattern. The most important, not most important, most noticeable chakras is form and heart. Shape, perception, thought, feeling. Thought is what holds perception and feeling together. So perception and feeling, with perception being fierce and feeling being peaceful, symbolized by the fierce archetypes, which are the fierce yiddims, and the peaceful archetypes, which are the peaceful yiddims. And the dance of that, each symbolizing a channel energy. And you've got some half peaceful, half fierce yiddims too. Those energies. This is in Tantra. When we work with Tantra, we are entirely working with symbols, which is what we do in Dreamtime as well. Dream yoga is actually a Tantra. In Dreamtime, when you and I walk together in Dreamtime, and for me, I think we are walking beside the sea. And for you, you think we are walking down a village road or a city road. And we are speaking. Many of the symbols will differ. For me, perhaps, the symbol of being by the sea symbolizes activity and temporariness, movement. Whereas for you, a city street may symbolize activity and movement. Therefore, you'll see a city street and I'll see by the sea, but we're both seeing our own personal symbols of activity and movement, because what we are conversing about is how to work with the moving. Do you see how that works? So when you dream of me, we're going back there because I need to say this. What you see and hear is not exactly what I see and hear. However, in general, the communication is the same. And I hope that made sense to you. If you've done much Dreamtime work, or we've hung together in the Dreamtime much, you'll probably see how that works. What was I answering? I got diverged.
Fierce yiddims.
It's symbolic. They are Sambhogakaya nature of mind. They are the manifestation of the innate vitality. They're made out of a combination of pattern and chi. Chi is the vitality, the lung. Pattern is the tsa. They are the creation of that tsa lung tigli. It's why you can see them in tiglies. They're the same as the peaceful ones. If you prefer excitement, you will probably like the fierce yiddims. If you suffer from anxiety, you will probably prefer the peaceful yiddims. Because generally the midline balance is what we're all looking for. If you suffer from anxiety, there's too much excitement in your life for you. Sometimes a period of great excitement causes PTSD, which turns the switch way up and you end up with anxiety even in calm times. But this happens after a period of much anxiety. So, fierce and peaceful yiddims will be according to your preference. You can't Tigli is neither smooth nor bumpy. Phenomena. The richness of the southern direction, Ratnasambhava, is the multiplicity of color, shape, taste, texture, scent, and other senses, sonar, and things like that that you don't even know. The richness of that, which is the richness of phenomena, arises in mind and dissolves in mind and has never been other than mind and is not in the least bit bumpy. And yet it is. It's a symbol. Next question.
Related to this, since you mentioned anxiety,
Yes.
a couple of people had asked, what if we have a glimpse of our nature of mind and freak out? How to deal with this so the mind doesn't distract itself from seeing its nature again?
Do some Tantra and try again. That's your simplest method. Go work with Tantra for a little while, work with symbols, create some Gewa. When that happens, it's just because you haven't made enough Gewa. Your channel pattern is not open enough. So the fastest way to create Gewa, if you got spooked by a glimpse of your mind, is working with symbols, Tantra, because they're not scary. Or you can pick ones that aren't. So if you get spooked by Tawa, don't beat on the brick wall with your head. You're just going to give yourself a headache and find other interesting ways to distract yourself, possibly even by going mad, because being nutty is very distracting. Don't bother with that. Just go practice Tantra for a few months. Try again. See if it still spooks you. If it does, another few months. Yeah, I like that. Dzogchen is not better than Tantra. It just works differently than Tantra. Don't be, I want to do Dzogchen because it's supposed to be the best one, the highest practice, the last practice. That's ego shit. That's as bad as, and Westerners get that one. That's why you all love Dzogchen half the time. Tibetans, they don't want to touch Dzogchen with a pole because they're not good enough. That's ego shit. Humbleness and pride are the same thing. Don't bother. They're not going to win you points either way. Just do whatever you think is gonna work for now. How can you tell which practices are gonna work for you? You like them? That's the most important bit. You like the practice. If it spooks you, you don't like it. Unless, of course, you really like being spooked. There's a few skydivers and race car drivers out there who are total adrenaline junkies. For you, it's spooking, you might be an attraction, but for the other 90% of you, go find a practice you like. Do that one with joyful enthusiasm, without grasping at where it goes, but enjoying how it does that. There really isn't a separation between the journey and the fruition. Next question.
We had a couple of questions about relwang, hair or dreadlock empowerment. That's how they put it here. What's the importance of not cutting the hair in relation to Dzogchen? Is that purely a cultural thing, or is there a physical or practical element?
First of all, it has nothing to do with Dzogchen. It's Tantra. And in the Tantric precepts, one does not harm one's body. Some practitioners in some lineages take this to the extreme of never cutting the hair or the fingernails. If you never cut the hair, I mean, even I, with slippery white girl hair, get dreads when I'm in my cave for a while. It does that. I come down from my cave where I'm not washing my hair for 2 months because I don't have running water. 3 months, however long I'm up there, and I've got dreads and snarls and mats. And I sort of soak my head in conditioner to get it out because it tends to attract attention in the West that I don't want. I think I lived too long as a smuggler and too long as a criminal to like attracting attention with my clothes in a way that I can't take on and off. That's just old habit. I'm not living that life anymore. I'm too damn old to pull that off again. Any of it. It was fun while it lasted, but not now. So I suppose I could have dreads if I wanted. However, there's a habit of trying to slide under the radar. Old habit from my early 20s and my formative teen years. However, so if you take the tantric precepts in a certain way, you don't cut your hair. And if you live without running water, which is a great percentage of the world, including caves and, the forests where yogis hang out, it will mat. No, you don't go to the beauty parlor and have it properly put in the thin, skinny dreads and all that. You just leave it alone, and it does what it does. Hopefully that answered your question. But that's part of Tantra, not Dzogchen. In Dzogchen, there are no special clothes you need to wear. This is Tantric. Because I have practiced Tantra, I get this. I got this, my first striped Zen, from one of my Lopans, one of my Tantric masters. Dzogchen, You don't have to wear any special clothes or do your hair a special way. And if I was only teaching Dzogchen, I'd probably have my hair short because I enjoy short hair. But because I also teach Tantra, and because I do have Tibetans among my students, I follow the Tibetan ways. Although I do soak the dreads out of my hair because I want to. Hopefully that answered your question.
I have occasionally heard you reference Druid teachings. What is your connection to these teachings? I have a past connection to them as well, and am just curious.
Among my teachers was a Druid teacher, and I honor him greatly. The Druid line primarily had to do with harmony with phenomena, with the seasons, with the calendar, and had many very fine methods of producing that. So I honor him greatly. John Morrison. Was his dad's name was Morris.
Yep, that makes sense.
And that's how you did it then. I've also had teachers among the Lakota and the Cheyenne. Especially Cheyenne, I honor greatly. But the lineage I took to and found myself most at home in was the Tibetan Nyingma. So that's the one I mostly hold with honor and teach. And if I give you something that wasn't in the Nyingma, that was in the Gelugpa or in the Bon, I'll tell you where I got it. And if I think you need something that was in the Cheyenne or the Druid, I'll offer it to you and tell you where I got it. But predominantly, I'm a traditional Tibetan style teacher. Those are just add-ons like Chinese medicine and being a doc. Next question.
Do you believe Wangdor Rinpoche will come back as a tulku to continue teaching?
Not from his side. He had no, as far as I know at the end, he wanted a rest. He was tired. He had seen too many new things in his life and wanted some time to metabolize it all. Remember, he came from a nomad culture where it is probable that in your entire life you may come to know and meet 200 people. And then he hit New Delhi after an airplane, after carrying a teacher out of Tibet. And then he flew all over the world and even saw a jackalope, which he put a pillowcase over. Didn't like the jackalope. There is a level of culture shock that a system can withstand in one life, and then one feels a bit fatigued by it. So I believe he's taking a nice holiday up in Dewachen, which is exactly what he wanted to do and what he used to say he was gonna do. However, since so many of his students are requesting his return, he's likely to do that once he's had enough of a holiday. Now, time runs differently in different realms. So He might spend several hundred years resting and enjoying himself in Dewa Chen and come back in another 5 or 6. We'll see. It will depend on his students and the prayers they make for his return. I would like to see him again, or at least the results of him after his vacation. It won't be the same person. Next. Personalities change, especially when you die. Next.
There were a couple of questions about how to practice if you're really busy or suffering from illness or just in a house with a lot of distractions. And does it make sense to say, retreat from that, go into an isolated practice away from all that, or how to cope with a busy environment?
It really depends. In the beginning, get your ass out of that environment. If you can, if your busy environment is a toddler, damn thing you can do about that until they grow older and go to school. So get used to it. So it really is circumstantial if you have the opportunity, such as a babysitter, a play group, or a nap, or even sticking them on the internet for half an hour to go off and sit and do some practice by yourself. If you are, depending on what you're practicing, if you're doing sadhana work in Tantra, it is nice to do the sadhana by yourself rather than in a busy environment. The first, say, 500 times you do it, once you know it really well, it won't matter. You can continue the mantra in a busy environment, picking it up and putting it down throughout the day. The same can be said for Mahamudra once you reach certain stages, but not through... Once you are very skilled at shine without an object, which is tawa, and you can rest one-pointedly in the stillness, it is time to, sometimes for some people, will be benefited by entering a busy environment in order to perceive the moving in the stillness and the stillness as the moving. So it may help some people's version of Trultra Naljor, but not other people. It will really depend on the state of your shine without an object. That's Mahamudra. In Trekcha, you should be off making retreats as much as you can for the first few years. Then come out for a little while, go back and retreat. Come out for a little longer, go back and retreat. And you feel your way back and forth. Unless you have babies. The instructions are different for when you have babies. When you have a baby, either a nursing babe in arms, you do not have a quiet environment. And you will not for a good 10 years, maybe. So there are instructions in how to practice right in the middle of it all. With either Tantra or with, and there are different Tantras suitable when you have a baby at different stages. Really, you want to be using manis and not a fierce archetype as a yidam when you've got a nursing babe. Because you want it to go to sleep. You always want it to go to sleep. You want to go to sleep. Manis put babies to sleep. So that's what you want to be using. When you have a toddler that's obviously trying to kill itself the moment you take your eyes off it by sticking its head in the toilet or doing other creative things, you might want to go to Tara, because you need help. And Tara's really good at helping. Once the kid starts school, you might want to be doing manjushri with the kid, because that will help them do well in school. And actually, depending on the lifestyle your child eventually wants, doing well in school may be necessary to acquire it. Not all lifestyles. Not, you need to do well for the first few grades and at least get geometry down for a carpenter. But not so much algebra. And you need a little algebra for a carpenter too. Trig is more for engineering and if you're building bridges. So it's really going to depend on where the kid decides to go. And you can't do anything about that. So give it up. Give them all the opportunities, but they're going to go where they're going to go, and you are absolutely helpless. Get used to it. When you have a child in home and you are practicing trekcha, then it's gom all the way. Whatever you're doing while you're doing it, changing a nappy, dealing with a tantrum, notice the already known Dharmakaya nature of mind. That is incredibly powerful. If you can pull that off, you're going to take off like a skyrocket. It's the benefit of being a householder. You see, you're not going to be able to fake it. Yogis and monks, they can fake it. Look how peaceful I am and how good my karma is, how wonderful it is. Now try saying that with a screaming toddler pulling on you, because you cut the sandwich the wrong way. Every time, use the toddler as a mnemonic. Every time the toddler makes a noise, check and see if your mind is still there. And if they're too quiet, give them a drum. Having a baby, if you have the training and a teacher who understands babies amongst, not going to teach you this stuff, is an incredibly powerful practice to work with, an opportunity that is not going to happen for a monk. Oh, the feelings in 1 hour that you will go through looking after a baby. Love, fury, frustration, laughter, humor, exhaustion. What a wonderful matrix to work with. So you make a choice. Will you practice with a baby or without a baby? And then, if you will practice with a baby, you get instructions for practicing with a baby. And if you will practice without a baby, you get instructions for practicing without a baby. But they're not the same instructions. Okay? So the instructions for practicing without a baby say leave your home and family and go to a strange place where you are a stranger. Make retreat. Abandon entertainments. That's the instructions for if you don't have a baby. The instructions if you do have a baby is to merge your practice with daily life. Depending on whether you are practicing sutra, Tantra, or Dzogchen. There are ways of doing each of these things that merge it with the daily life. If you are practicing Sutra, you become extremely familiar with the 6 paramitas, and you look for each and every opportunity to increase your practice of one of them, to mature one of those paramitas towards its transcendent nature. If you are practicing Tantra, you run mantras and mandalas at all times, making sure that the choice of your yidam that you are running is in harmony with the stage of your family. If you are practicing Mahamudra, it will depend on the stage of Mahamudra. There's different instructions for the different stages. But since most of you in Mahamudra are on Shine with an object, you will do that when the kid's asleep and increase your ability to do that by using mantra while the kid's awake. Once you're at Shine without an object, you will do very short but continuous sessions of it. In Dzogchen, it's Gom at all times and in all circumstances. That's a quick overview of how you practice with a baby versus how you practice without a baby. Babies are very intense. Having one, building one inside of you, and pushing that football out through a very small hole is extremely intense. And then you have this, what do I do with it? Baby. And your life changes completely. So your practice has to change along with that. I answered a different question from the one asked.
That seems to be the theme for today. Related to what you were just talking about, what is the difference between Shine without an object, resting in open awareness, and Trekcha?
Mahamudra and Mahaati. Shine without an object is Shine on Tawa. Tawa isn't a thing. What were the others?
Resting in open awareness.
Resting in open awareness is the same thing, but approached from a state of relax more. Whereas Shine is approached from a state of fine-tune it, not too relaxed, not too focused. What was the third one?
Trekcha.
Trekcha is broader and contains both those and more. Shine without an object develops from Shine with an object. Instead of opening your attention in the beginning, you close your attention to a single point focus and you work those muscles of focus, both of the eyeballs and the attention, until you are able for long periods of time to trance out in focus, where your mind does not wander. Once you've done that, you've broken the horse of your mind, you've trained the elephant, the bull in Japanese. Then you take the pebble away. Now you have this trained mind that points, and you are introduced to Tawa And it hits the stillness of Tawa, and it doesn't budge. It just sits there. Now you need to teach it to see after that happens, and it can sit there at any time it wants, just blank. Then you teach it to include, or no, to determine which, as you go in and out of Shine without an object, which is Shine on the stillness of mind, on Dharmakaya nature of mind, you begin to notice what is moving, thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, all of them, and what that stillness is, and you get super clear inside of yourself. What's moving and what isn't. You separate the moving from the stillness. Once you are certain, once it is clear to you that all your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions are moving, including your perception of the stillness, because when you're sitting in Shine on the stillness, you perceive stillness, and when you're not sitting in Shine on the stillness, you don't perceive stillness, so your perception is obviously part of the moving. Once you've got that, you find the stillness in the movement, and the movement in the stillness. Now there's rushins in there that help you do that. Or they're the opposite of rushins. They're roommates. They don't separate. They bring together. Rushen means to separate. The stage of Rushen, which comes after you've got a pretty decent handle on Sopa, at least intellectually and perceptually, then you do, in Dzogchen, the separating, moving from stillness. So it's a slightly different order. Remind me what question I was answering.
You were talking about the differences between Shine without an object, resting in open awareness, and Trekcha.
Yeah, so these are methods called top in Tibetan. They're methods of practice. You do them one way or another way. Once you have done them one way or another way, then you can see them. I could never friggin' get either Shine with an object or Shine without an object. Rinpoche started me in Mahamudra. Couldn't do it. Didn't work. My mind just would not hold still. So it's okay, Dzogchen for you. Because the first thing you don't have to do is hold still. That comes much later, once you've developed other skills. The only reason you should know the difference between all of these is because you want to choose which one you want to practice. So you want to try a few so you can pick the one you like. So you try a little Dzogchen, Tawa Gompa Sopa. You try a little Mahamudra, Shine with an object, maybe Shine without an object. And you see which one felt more like home. And you pick that one. One of the reasons I'm making you pick the group to join. Some of you would join every group and be here every week. And no, not going there. You can't do every practice I've taught. You can do more than one, but one is the main one, two are auxiliary. And then occasionally in a circumstance like, okay, ceremonies and tantra is not my main practice, but if I need to try to set up and pull a bunch of energies together for, say, an election, I'm going to do it ceremonially because that's the easiest way to get that going. I am going to have to take a break and go blow my nose. That's what is distracting me right now, is impacted sinuses. So how do we do this? Do I mute? No.
Don't worry about muting. Just unplug and step away from
Okay, the chair will appear empty because we can't turn this off without losing
the whole
stream. So I'm just going to go into the bathroom and blow my nose so I don't sneeze. I keep thinking I'm going to sneeze and then not. And I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, nose.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. The day I forget to stick a hanky in my pocket in the morning is the day I really need one. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, much better. Low battery on the phone?
It shouldn't be.
Okay. Get that right? Yeah. And I'm back and feeling much better about it.
Well, we'll start with an easy question. Somebody had a question about the Vajrasattva Sadhana.
Mm-hmm.
And which direction does the mantra rotate?
Clockwise.
Is that, can you demonstrate with a hand over your head as to what the direction is?
Okay, this is a chakra. It's a wheel. It's actually a wheel, it's a multi-dimensional wheel. But we'll just go like this, because there's the lotus and the moon disc, and it's on the moon disc where the mantra goes around, and it goes around clockwise like this. This is clockwise for me. So take your wristwatch, put it in front of your heart. The way your wristwatch goes, that's the way it goes. But in the heart. Or in the heart.
I've just taken refuge with you. What next? What practices should I focus on?
Good question. What would you like to do? What's attractive to you? Try some of the practice groups. Try the Trekcha one, try one of the 2 Tantra ones, try the Tsalung one. See where you feel most interested and comfortable. Meanwhile, if you're just starting with this whole Tibetan Dharma Buddhism, 6 paramitas. There's a teaching on it up on the website. Go listen. Start practicing those. That's first. Then start feeling your way into the Chenrezig practice or the Vajrasattva practice. I'd say Chenrezig first. And seeing if you like direct meditation or if you find it too boring. Whether your mind will sit. If your mind will sit, try Mahamudra. There's also Mahamudra up on the website. I point like this, but what I mean is the website. There's some Mahamudra teachings. Do be present with me on some teaching where I give the pointing out, which is almost every teaching. I don't always name it and say, okay, here I am. This is the pointing out. But it's almost always in there because it is the context I live in. Dzogchen, Trekcha is the context I live in, so I can't not show everything in that context. Even Tantra is within that context. So play. Play with the different practices. Try them out. See what looks fun. Pick one. Try it for a while. After a while, if it's not working well for you, if you decide you don't like it, try a different one. We can work together. Pick something. For groups, if you're just beginning, I would recommend starting with Tantra, Chenrezig. So you'd be in my Tantra group and you'd be working with the Chenrezig practice, which you can learn in the group practice, but should be doing not only in the group practice, but also on your own time. Make sense? Next.
There was, let's see. When travel is safe again, I would like to go to India to practice with you if possible. Do you have advice for preparing for such a trip for someone who hasn't been before?
It's not like you think it is. Even words that you know perfectly well in English have different meanings there. For example, yes, no, and just up here. Very different meanings than they do here. So bring some decent stomach medicines such as grapefruit seed extract and curing pills, which is a Chinese medicine. Those will cover most things. You can get good antibiotics there if you get something really serious, and good anti-worming stuff there if you get something really serious. But for the little stuff, you can't get good herbs there unless you go Ayurvedic. And even then, unless you know the practitioner really well, you don't know what's in it. You get a little bit better quality and tested stuff if you bring those two things from the West. You cannot get Chinese remedies there. Hardly ever. And you cannot get good vitamins there. So if you are regularly taking anything like vitamin D, you should bring it with you. The doses there, you can get them, but it's way low dose. In general, since dose is determined by weight, and in general, in the past, the Indian population weighs about, or the South Indian population, the average Indian population weighs about half of what big Westerners weigh. And this is changing now, but that's always been the case. So the dosages are really low. And you'll often have to double dose yourself something or take in the higher range of the range doses. And they weigh low dose vitamins because it saves money. So you want to bring those. And if you are an unusual shape or size, such as big, bring clothes. You will not get shoes there larger than about a size 9. And think of Chinese sizes for other clothes. If you're small, get your clothes there. There's plenty of stuff. And I don't know what you think you mean by practicing with me, but I'm not going to sit and hatch you like an egg. I will be in my cave. You can be in town or around about, and sometimes I will see you. But I ain't hatching you. I ain't sitting on you. So don't be all upset if I only see you a couple of times a week for a cup of tea somewhere. That's the time where I have for me to spend time with my Tibetan friends and students, and they get the priority when I'm over there. It's only fair. Next question.
Many people in my family got COVID without contact. It seemed we were living a shared dream but with different perspectives. Is this related to collective karma? Can you say something about group karma?
Okay. Right now, COVID is a species karma. It is if one has a karma to be ill, and many people do, that's not your family's group karma, that's each one of theirs individual karmas. The secondary cause of there being a virulent, contagious, and rather deadly virus on the loose will activate those with the cause to become ill. You see, for a cause to manifest, for a karma to manifest, there have to be the secondary conditions. You may have the karma to be an incredible sonar poet, artist, but you're Homo sapien, you don't have sonar. So that karma can't actualize itself. I may have a very strong karma to suffer prostate cancer, but I don't have a prostate. So that can't happen this life. It'll hang out there waiting for the circumstances it can actualize. So some circumstances are individual, or by gender, males don't get ovarian cysts. They have ovaries. How can they get an ovarian cyst? You'll find by gender and species, and all Homo sapiens are the same species, regardless of the minor differences: tall, short, dark, light, hair texture that have evolved on different continents. This species is having a karma of illness caused by pollution and overpopulation. The mamos, Gaia's immune system, have become activated by things becoming dire enough that they're going to take down the population of the world by hook or by crook to a level that is manageable ecologically. So we need either to get better at managing ecology or stop having babies if we want to stop dying of illness. Group karma. Patterns. Karma are patterns. Patterns of the flow in the fourth dimension. If you look at the long body of an individual or a place or any clump as it interacts with all the other clumps across time and space, so many factors of what things actualize when, what things actualize first, what things actualize second. You can have a very, very intense karma for something to happen, but if the circumstances that permit it to happen are not present, it can't happen now. Karmas will generally manifest according to their intensity and recentness. Most recent before longer ago, most intense before less intense. It's a pattern. Karma is simply the description of a four-dimensional pattern. How long body shape occurs. Groups have karma. For instance, many of the bacteria in your body, such as the digestive bacteria in your gut, are dependent on your being alive for them to live. Others will happily eat you when you're dead. So the group karma of those that are dependent on you being alive together with you will all die at roughly similar times, whereas those who will simply switch around and eat you and your corpse have the karma to survive longer unless you get embalmed or cremated, in which case that group of bacteria have the karma to be either flushed away, embalming, poisoned, that's part of embalming, or burned. You are a group, not an entity. The karma affecting your body is the karma of all the inhabitants in it, just as the karma affecting Gaia, this planet, is the karma of all the inhabitants upon it. So you have to realize with COVID lockdown, as animals find more space, they have the karma for more space, which was able to manifest due to the karma of COVID and the response to that karma, which created more karma. Do you see how complex that is? Don't simplify. If you want to simplify, you only simplify the workings of karma for the purpose of steering your way through the fourth dimension of time. You do that by practicing Gewa. So you can simplify things down for practical reasons to work with it. But don't think the simplification is the way it really is. Next question.
Does the removal of body parts, such as, say, having a hysterectomy, appendectomy, I guess, or amputation, does any of that affect your ability to stay in Treksha?
Nah. Don't see why. Can I have more coffee?
Sure.
Give me one more question first. That I can't see why having your ovaries out or your arm off would affect Treksha. Can't see any way it would do that. So if there's something you're seeing there, you better give me more words, because I don't see it. Not at all. I have a more complex or in-depth question.
Yes, I'm looking through what we have available. Are there sensations when you are in Rigpa? Because if I'm in a state of Shine without fixation, even there's no thoughts, but there are sensations.
Keep going. At some point, there won't even be sensations. Allow your Shine to mature until even the awareness of time pass is no longer there. Since Rigpa is usually a word when we're talking about open awareness, used to refer to the stage in Treksha, which is past Trultra Naljor. In that case, there are both sensations and not sensations. They exist, but they aren't things. They're moving. They have absolutely no duration. Always changing. Trul. Trulwa. Moving, changing, fluxing. Sensations do that. They are not steady. If you are, as your Shine develops, now you have Shine without thought, Shine on Tawa. As you deepen this, you will not perceive time passing in it or sensations during it. You will be entirely with your full attention in stillness as stillness. So let your Shine continue to develop and deepen. Your attention is being caught by the sensations and mildly, ever so slightly distracted. Next question.
If I find meditation boring, does this mean I am spiritually on a lower level?
No, it means you should practice Tantra. Next.
Okay. Let me see.
I always found it boring in the beginning too. That's why I started with Tantra.
When doing Yab Yum visualization while being gay, can I imagine the deity as being of my own gender?
Well, that depends on which gender you are while gay. In general, the symbolism of yin-yang is necessary in that visualization. So if you are a gay female, you would generally imagine yourself as the masculine aspect of the deity, embracing a female. Conversely, if you are a gay male, you would imagine yourself as the female aspect, embracing a male. Until you could imagine yourself as both embracing each other. You need, in that symbolism, the symbol of yin and yang coming together, which is symbolized by gender. The pull of yin for yang and yang for yin. The pull of form to expand into space. The pull of space to embrace joyfully form. Space does not become form. Form does not become space, but form is always trying to increase and multiply and occupy as much space as it can. And space, with great pleasure, embraces all the infinite form. And this is the symbolism. Form and emptiness. Bodhicitta and Sunyata. And this symbolism is symbolized by gender. So if you are non-binary, it should be easy for you to encompass both. Surely you can be in two beings at once. Don't you dream in multiple beings? It's a common phenomena. Keep practicing Chinrezig, you will. Next question.
In Guru Yoga, does the symbol always have to be a person? Or could it, for example, be a sphere of light? And does it have to be the same symbol in each practice session?
It is best and most effective for it to be the same symbol in each practice session. And it is considered most effective for 99.9% of the people for that symbol to be in human form, or in the form of the species practicing Guru Yoga. That allows it to personalize, and we need that. That said, there may be the occasional instance where a sphere of light would be most effective for some individual of some species. I haven't met them, but that I haven't met all the beings in the vast multiverse. No way. Next.
I just had it here we go. If in the future I become a perfect Buddha who abides beyond the 3 times, does it mean that this very Buddha is present in my mind right now?
Yes. Yes, you will have done so. And yes, it is. It's called your own innate Buddha nature. It is the true nature of your own mind. It's what you rest in as when you meditate. Time is not linear. Although we as Homo sapiens tend to live suspended as a now between a past and a future, scrabbling to make the future what we wish, and scrabbling in a rewrite mode to make the past what we wish it had been or fear it might have been. We also scrabble to make the future what we fear as well as what we wish. Hopes and fears do that. They pull on the lines that move through time. You will have been a perfect Buddha in the fullness of all times, which is the 4th time beyond time. And that time is now in this now and all nows. Real Dzogchen, true culmination of Dzogchen, is simply to notice that and relax. This now is all there is. This now is every now. Just this. Let go of your hopes and your fears. Let go of your judgments about what is and what isn't. Release. Striving. Release. Fleeing. Allow the play of eternity to manifest fully in this now and every now. Relax into simple isness. It's really nothing fancy. That was the pointing out, in case you missed it. Next.
Is it dangerous to combine Tibetan Buddhism and Theravada?
I wouldn't say it's dangerous. Not sure how it would work. Except in Sutrayana. You actually would combine them in Sutrayana. Oops. Take a sip of this.
Yeah, it's also coming up on 1.
You would combine them in Sutrayana by simply recognizing the nature of Bodhicitta and allowing that to pervade all sutra of the Hinayana, of the Theravada. But without Bodhicitta, it's not Mahayana. So you would have to add Bodhicitta to Theravada which would make it Mahayana. So I'm not sure how that would work for you. Let's have one more, if there's a nice one.
Yeah. How do we get to Dewa Chin?
Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re. Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re. Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re. Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re, Om Mami Dewa Re. Like that. You just do that a lot. It's your insurance policy. If you goof up the dying process and you die in a mess, in a state of fear, rage, and you just for a moment remember Opame, Amitabha, there in the Bardo, it makes a sort of a loop of your energy channels. And Amitabha, from its side, through the practice, a practice called Monlam, Wish Path, has created hooks in the Bardo, and if you can make a loop, the hooks can bring you to Dewa Chen. If you can't make a loop, the hook ain't gonna bring you, and you make the loop by simply thinking, just once, Opame, Amitabha, or the mantra. So you establish a habit of thinking that. Rinpoche, when faced with what he thought might be death, like air pockets in an airplane, would generally say, Upame la chagsala om tare tutari turi soha. So first he'd do the insurance and make the pattern for sudden startlement, and then he'd do Tara to fix whatever was happening, which she did for him a number of times. Green Tara was his yidam towards the end of his life. Not the only one he ever had, but his yidam in the later years. And I think that's it for today, unless there's anything pressing.
I don't think so.
We'll be back in about a month or so with another one of these. Hopefully it was helpful. I'm hoarse. I'm going to go have another lozenge.
Mm-hmm.
Gewandi Nyur Duda Che Che Sa